Can you imagine waking up one day to discover that $1 billion vanished from a central bank's account? Not just any bank, the national bank of an entire country. On a quiet Friday morning in 2016, employees at the Central Bank of Bangladesh noticed something strange. The printer that usually prints out international transfer slips was completely silent. Not a single page came out. They thought, maybe it's just a small technical issue. But what they didn't know was that, at that exact moment, they were inside the biggest digital heist in history. A secret, highly skilled hacking group was working behind the scenes. A team capable of breaking into the toughest digital systems on the planet. They had infiltrated the bank's network and used the SWIFT system, the same global banking system trusted by nearly every bank in the world, to move the money. But this time, every rule was broken. Who was behind this? How did they manage to steal $1 billion without firing a single shot? And the strangest part, what do the US and the Philippines have to do with it? Get ready and buckle up, because what you're about to hear is not just a story of theft. It's a story of intelligence, cyber warfare, and a nation on the brink of losing its fortune. Stay till the end, because the group behind this operation will absolutely shock you. The employees tried to contact the SWIFT company responsible for the transfers, and the SWIFT company immediately advised him that they were closing the transfer system. Of course, they don't care about this, so that employees must obtain the approval of the director of the central bank. But why? The employees spoke to the manager, and his reaction was that no, we will not shut down the system. Most likely, the issue is just a simple mistake and the manager will correct it. Unfortunately, he never takes up the issue with the required seriousness, and most likely in the first place. Even if the matter was taken as seriously as possible, it would not have gone away. It makes a difference. And now I will tell you why the next day, which is Sunday, the employees of the central bank returned to work with them, because, like we said, the beginning of the week for them is Sunday. But America is still closed, so they still remain in the bank. They are able to communicate with the US Federal Reserve, but in any case, the US Federal Reserve will most likely not transfer the 31 transactions that it remains until they communicate. The biggest problem was the $81 million, those who were actually transferred to accounts in the Philippines. So try to contact the Philippine bank to which these transfers were transferred. But the same thing happened when they tried to communicate and got no response, because in the Philippines they couldn't. They had Saturday and Sunday off, and the biggest problem was that they were no longer ready on Monday. I mean, they didn't work until Tuesday, and the reason was because they had a holiday for the New Year. The Chinese New Year asks why. Filipinos celebrate the Chinese New Year and take a vacation during it. The reason is because there are cultural ties. There is a strong relationship between the Philippines and China. The bottom line is that the Bangladesh bank will no longer be able to communicate with the Philippine bank until Tuesday. Then we will see a very smart pattern followed by the thieves, or the hackers carried out the theft on Thursday night. The following Friday and Saturday, vacation in Bangladesh, and they were robbed of the American Reserve, which had Saturday and Sunday off. They transferred the money to a bank in the Philippines when they had vacation on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The timing that the thieves chose was not a coincidence. It was an important and very smart part of their plan. The goal is to disrupt the communication process between banks for as long as possible and give themselves away the largest possible scope for the employees of the Bangladesh bank to successfully carry out their operation after all had failed. In their communications, they had no choice but to resort to email. So they sent emails to the bank. The Philippines is asking them to freeze the accounts to which these amounts have arrived. They explain to them in emails that this money is ours, and that it was stolen from us and transferred. The amounts were illegally deducted from our account, and the management of the Central Bank of Bangladesh was helpless at the time. They are passing by and they do not know how to deal with this calamity. Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries in the world. The world and their loss of $1 billion will cause disasters in the economy. Before we continue and know what after the theft, the first thing we wanted to know was how these hackers were able to penetrate the bank's transfer system. The hackers' target from the beginning was the US Federal Reserve. Because many countries, it keeps a portion of its reserves in dollars with the US Federal Reserve. But its federal regulations. The American one is very impenetrable. Almost impossible to penetrate. If it is impossible at all, and the same thing. As for the SWIFT network system, it is very immune, as we said before, and it is difficult for hackers to penetrate. They penetrate this secure network. But the weakest threat in the network are the banks themselves, because every bank, responsible for the internal security system. I wonder where hackers can get the weakest security system they can. They penetrate, of course, most likely one of the poor countries, such as Bangladesh, which did not go away. They must have sufficient experience or budget to strengthen their security systems at the level of countries. Secondly, does this mean that hacking the security system at the Central Bank of Bangladesh is easy? Of course not. This hacking process is not what you see. It happened between day and night that hackers had hacked into the bank more than a year before the day the operation was carried out. During this year, they were watching the bank and its network in secret without anyone knowing. They continued to study the bank systems from the inside until they did not fully analyze and understand them. So what? The exact steps that hackers follow in order to carry out this process. The first step is what is known as hacking, social hacking, or some other. They call it social engineering, which means that you study and understand your human purpose and nature. Social and understanding his behavior in general, of course, has become the best and sweetest tool for hackers because they do social engineering. This is what they are doing on social media. Now, God willing, most people have accounts and they post a lot from their personal information on the internet. Whereas people are exploiting this thing. So what happened is that hackers collected information of approximately 40 bank employees and then sent them these emails. They were in the names of people they knew. And of course the hackers came up with these names through accounts. Employees on social media sites sent emails to 40 employees. And most of the emails were a job application, meaning email. Usually it says, "Hello so-and-so. I am looking for a job and I know that you work there, the bank, and I want you to help me and see if you have any jobs available." And this is C in multi-or. My CV is in the attachments. Of course, when you see an email like this from someone you know, even remotely, there is a high probability that you will leave. Download this file that I attached to you and open it. And of course these are the files that the hacker sent. It had viruses inside it, but on the surface it was really like a CV or CV file, a normal PDF file. But this file contains a hidden virus that installs itself on the computer as soon as possible. Open it and keep in mind that these emails were sent to the employees' work emails. This means that anyone who downloads the file and opens it will most likely open it on their work computer. Indeed, a number of these employees downloaded this file and opened it on their computers. The way the virus that the hackers put in began to spread among young people and bank computers and spread. This was completely hidden, and even the employees who opened the file did not suspect it because they saw in front of them a C file in a very normal CV. This means that the first hack was a human hack more than a technical hack, and now it has returned. The virus cannot reach employees' computers. Here comes the role of this technical hack. It can take snapshots or pictures of the screen, and it can record every keystroke that employees press. It was even possible to allow hackers to control the computer remotely. But of course they are not doing so now. The attack stage is now in the information gathering stage, and their goal in the end is to deliver. The important computers in the bank are the computers through which international transfers take place, because no computer in the bank is connected. With the SWIFT system, computers in any bank are usually connected to each other via a single network. Even these internal networks have security systems and standards, meaning the device that it connects computers to each other. It is called a switch. This is the device into which all the wires enter. Usually, these switch devices have certain security standards, especially in sensitive institutions such as banks. But unfortunately, the switch machines that were in the Central Bank of Bangladesh did not have any. The security standards were cheap devices that were very weak. This allowed the hackers to. They moved from computer to computer in the bank relatively easily. What hackers did is that they kept moving from computer to computer until they found the computer responsible for the transfers. The international computer, which is connected to the SWIFT network, is their ultimate goal and of course all of their movements. They were careful that it was done in secret because if any employee discovered or even suspected that they were there, network, this will be the end of their process. So I found out that 2 or 3 employees were entering, but they were able to arrive to the computer of one of the employees. They took the employee's account data from it. They were able to enter the SWIFT computer, and when they finished, they felt that they knew exactly how they were going to carry out the operation. They began to think about timing, etc. What we said was that they developed their plan so that they would begin the attack on Thursday night, February 4th, 2016. This timing will allow them to move more freely between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The 2 days were consecutive holidays in countries that need to communicate with each other in Bangladesh's for America and the Philippines. This timing will give them a period of 4 days during which communication will take place. Unemployed between banks. After work ended in Bangladesh on Thursday, the employees left. The bank was at 5 o'clock in the evening, and the thieves, or rather hackers, accessed the bank's computer remotely at 8:30 in the evening. It is assumed that the bank employees are not present at this time, so they can take their time and carry out the operation. And through this computer they submit transfer requests on the federal SWIFT system. Of course, the US Federal Reserve relies entirely on the SWIFT system if they receive a correct request. Through the SWIFT network, everything in the request was correct, and the data was all written correctly, so they did not have it. The reason they reject this request is that even if the amount is large, it has nothing to do with them, as it was supposed to be 35. All of these transfers go to the Philippine bank to which the hackers transferred the money, but for a reason. Only 4 transfers were accepted, but the remaining 31 transfers were suspended and placed below, which means, no matter what, it remains a very huge amount of $81 million, making this operation among the largest bank robberies in history. But the hackers were surprised why the 31 transfers were not carried out. The rest and the reason were strange in every sense of the word. It was a strange coincidence that saved the Bangladesh bank. The central bank stole an additional $870 million. So what happened and what was this coincidence? The amazing thing that was God's mercy on them. First of all, let us know who the account holders are. It is located in the Philippines. After they tracked these accounts, they discovered that they were registered in the names of people from these Chinese. Accounts were opened 10 months before the operation and have been dormant for more than a day, when the operation suddenly turned into millions of dollars. The Philippine bank in which they opened the accounts was called RCC, and the accounts. These were open in different branches of the bank in the Philippines, and one of these branches was. It is located on a street called Jupiter. A regular street is located in the Philippines called Jupiter. Remember the name. Jupiter. This is Zarin. By chance, it was in a second company in a second country, an oil tanker company. The same thing is freely called Jupiter. But this company was dealing with Iran and Iran under US sanctions. Any company that deals with Iran is included in the US blacklist. This, including Jupiter Company, is what happened to the remittances that were placed under review. The remittances were directed to the bank branch in the Philippines, which is on Jupiter Street and of course in transfers. The address of the branch that delivers the money to the system is written in reserve. The first time the American Federal Reserve saw the word Jupiter, it put these transfers under review. Even though this is Jupiter and this is a completely different Jupiter. Glory be to God, look at this amazing coincidence that stopped the transfer of 31 transfers worth $870 million. A dollar coincidence was a blessing from God on the Bangladeshi bank and economy because they were difficult. They bear the loss of $1 billion. And this was not the only mercy. It was a strange coincidence. A second time, the hackers, of course, after 4 transfers arrived, kept waiting for the rest of the 31 transfers. They waited for 7.5 hours while they were inside the computer, and then exited the SWIFT system. It was 6 p.m. in New York, and most people assumed that work had ended in New York. They decided that these remittances would not arrive, but imagine if they had just waited 1 additional hour. They would have been able to get all the transfers, every billion, because in some, the employees at the American Federal Reserve were still on duty and were reviewing the transfers that needed to be reviewed. So when they reviewed, these remittances came from the Bangladesh Bank, and they saw that the name of Jupiter Street in the Philippines had nothing to do with the Jupiter Company. They knew that stopping these transfers were just a mistake from the system. So now they are supposed to make the transfers appear normal. But when they saw the huge amounts in the transfers, they decided to get additional confirmation from the Bangladesh Bank, because these amounts were not. This is normal, especially for the Bangladesh Bank. Why do they want to transfer all this money to the Philippines? So they sent a message through the SWIFT system itself. They asked for confirmation from the bank on these transfers. Are these transfers really valid, and what are the numbers in them? It is actually true. Can you confirm these transfers? If the hackers were still present on the computer and inside the system, they would simply be. They can respond through the SWIFT network and confirm transfers to the Federation, the one that prints all transactions as soon as they become a separator before sending. These transactions is broken. The printer, because the printer was connected to the network and they were free of penetrating the network, so they simply installed it. A virus hit the printer and they shut it down. And when the basic employees, the few who work on Fridays, as we said, they got the printer. It was broken down and there were no papers and no printing base. As for the digital record on the computer, there were no suspicious transactions because the hackers, they scan it, but in the normal transactions that happen every day. At first, the employees did not suspect anything. They thought it was just a malfunction in the printer. They did not know about the disaster until the next day, which was Saturday, when they were able to turn on the printer again. And suddenly it printed everything for them. The transactions that were accumulated, including the 35 transactions that were settled by the hackers and those. It shocked them because it was worth $1 billion and was not present in the digital record of the bank management. Bangladesh and the employees, as we said, tried to communicate with the US Federal Reserve and tried to communicate with RCBC Bank in the Philippines. But because everyone had vacations, there was no response, so the only option left for them was to. They send emails specifically to the Philippine bank and ask them to freeze these accounts. The money that reached $81 million reached her. At this moment, the bank's management did not understand. What happened? How did they get transfers from the SWIFT system? At first, they thought there was a person. It all began on a quiet night. Inside the towering building of the Bangladesh Central Bank, a man entered alone, walked straight to the computer connected to the SWIFT network, and began executing transactions worth tens of millions of dollars. When the bank later reviewed over 8 hours of security camera footage, they were shocked. No one was there except a janitor. No hacker, no suspicious movement. The system had been breached remotely. The attackers were professionals, experts, who erased every trace of their presence. The stolen money soon appeared in accounts in the Philippines. All those accounts had been opened under fake identities. And one branch manager, Maya DeGito, played a crucial role. She didn't just help open the accounts. She even helped prepare the cash withdrawals. When $81 million reached those accounts, she arranged for $22 million in cash, even requesting extra funds from nearby branches. By Friday, she had filled boxes with more than 1 million Philippine peso banknotes. So much cash it had to be loaded into a Lexus. But that money wasn't safe yet. It could still be traced by its serial numbers. To make it clean, the thieves needed to launder it. That's why they chose the Philippines, a country full of casinos with weak financial oversight. They handed the cash to about 15 Chinese nationals, hired solely to launder the funds. Inside the casinos, they exchanged the money for plastic gambling chips, then later traded the chips back for new cash, money that could no longer be tracked. In just a few days, the stolen millions had been washed through the casino floors. Meanwhile, back in Bangladesh, panic erupted. Officials frantically tried to contact the Philippine bank to freeze the transfers. But because it was a weekend and a national holiday, no one could reach a senior official until 5 hours after business opened. During those 5 lost hours, Maya DeGito once again helped the thieves withdraw the remaining $59 million. By the time communication was finally established, the entire $81 million was gone, vanished. News spread across the world, the biggest digital theft in history. Investigations began in Bangladesh, the United States, and the Philippines. Cybersecurity experts discovered traces of malicious software left behind by the hackers, code that looked familiar. It matched the same malware used in the infamous 2014 Sony Pictures hack, an attack that had crippled Sony systems. The group responsible for that incident was known as the Lazarus Group. Lazarus wasn't an ordinary hacking gang. It was a state-sponsored cyber army linked to North Korea, a country desperate for foreign currency under heavy sanctions. They had infiltrated the Bangladesh bank's network months before the heist, studying the SWIFT system until the moment was perfect. Of the $81 million stolen, only about $15 million was ever recovered. The rest disappeared forever into the world's underground economy. The incident changed banking forever. If an entire central bank could be hacked, no one was truly safe. Modern wars, it turned out, were no longer fought with guns, but with keyboards and code. Ending line. $81 million. Vanished overnight, but it revealed a chilling truth. The new front line isn't land or sea. It's the digital battlefield. $1 billion almost disappeared overnight. Stolen not by robbers with guns, but by hackers with keyboards and lines of code. The Lazarus Group, backed and protected by North Korea, proved to the world that in the digital age, you don't need weapons to destroy economies. You just need access. One small printer glitch, one weekend delay, and a nation's fortune was almost gone. Since that day, banks around the world have changed their security systems forever. But the scary part is, the Lazarus Group is still out there, still hacking, still stealing, and still testing the limits of what's possible in the cyber world. This story reminds us of one simple truth. The next world war might not be fought with bombs or bullets, but with data, firewalls, and viruses. The digital world is evolving faster than ever, and the line between safety and chaos is getting thinner every day. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because in the next video, we are diving into another unbelievable true story from the dark side of technology. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and keep your firewall strong.